Media day is in the books. Teams have started practicing, and we're gearing up and getting ready for actual basketball season, which is always going to be fun. But on today's episode, I want to look at the teams that I have as the top three teams in each conference, and what's the biggest hurdle that they'll have to overcome to actually have the best chance to win a title. We're going to take a look at that, plus updates to the Golden State Warriors roster, which is now finally final. And Deandre Ayton talks about getting to play with Luka Doncic. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and look at this content for today, y'all. And I'm going to get into this, right? Now, this is my own personal list. This is my list. This is not your list. So do not flood the comment section. We're talking about, oh, well, Hayes, you should have had this team in your top three. It wouldn't be my top three at that point. It would be your top three. So I'm going to look at what I view as the top three teams in each conference and what their perceived weaknesses is and hurdle to get to the finals, right? So we're going to look at in the East, we're going to look at Cleveland, New York, and we're going to look at the Orlando Magic. Those are the teams that I have up there in the Eastern Conference. Not saying that those are the teams that necessarily are going to finish with the best three records, but those are teams I'm looking at in the Eastern Conference. In the West, I'm going to be looking at OKC, the Houston Rockets, and the Denver Nuggets. And I want to be clear, it pains me not to put the Minnesota Timberwolves in that top three, but I think what the Nuggets did with their bench is going to be one of the reasons I look at them over those other teams. So let's start off with the Eastern Conference, which very well you could make a case for Detroit. You can make a case for Atlanta being one of those teams in the top three there. A lot of teams, the East is one of those, as the East is a conference that you just never know exactly how things are going to shake out in the Eastern Conference. But let's go ahead and start off there. I'm going to start at my bottom team in the Eastern Conference, the bottom of the three teams in the Eastern Conference, and that is the Orlando Magic. And one of the biggest hurdle that they're still going to have to get over is the offense and, more importantly, the three-point shooting, right? We know what the Magic have been defensively. We know what their ceiling is defensively. They have a very high ceiling defensive-wise. But it is a big problem for the Orlando Magic on them and their shooting and scoring, right? Like, yeah, Franz and Paolo have been great. And I think both those guys have gears that they can get to offensively that we haven't seen quite yet, right? But there's no doubt about it that the Orlando Magic have been a very bad team when it comes down to three-point shooting. Now, for what it's worth, they did add Desmond Bane. He is a player that is going to bring a lot, but you can't look at one player necessarily to just fix all of your hurdles and issues, and that's one thing that concerns me. The Magic have been sitting at dead last in three-point shooting volume and efficiency. They were 11.2 makes per game, there, and then the efficiency 31.8. That's not good. And so in a league where three-point shooting has been prioritized and things like that, that's a big part of what's had hurt them. Now, of course, they went out and got Desmond Bane. They did ask Jace Richardson as well with the 25th overall pick, and maybe those things help. They brought in Tyus Jones as well, who's one of those players you wouldn't look at as a three-point shooter, but he can definitely hit the three. And so you look at it like they just have to be a mediocre team. Like if they're even mediocre-wise, three-point shooting-wise and offensively, with how they are defensively and getting Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner back and those type of things, like it's definitely something that can definitely help them. Hell, if Jet Howard, who was a lottery pick in 2023, shows them anything, that's another team, another player that can definitely help them on their pursuit as well. So looking at that, that's for the Orlando Magic. Let's look at the New York Knicks, right? How do you feel about the Knicks' depth, right? How do you feel about their depth and fit overall, right? I think that's something that they're going to have to look at. Like, do they have the necessary depth that they need? I like the players that they added. You added Gershon Yabusele. You added Jordan Clarkson to this team. You added Malcolm Brogdon to the team as well. You're trying to find ways to keep him and Landry Shamet as well. And, you've added some really good depth to this team that needed depth, right? But I think some of the things that overall, like you're still going to get hunted defensively, and we don't know how that's going to be. Jordan Clarkson, for example, hasn't been in playoffs since 2022. Malcolm Brogdon hasn't been in the playoffs since 2023. So, you're looking at those things there. And so do they have the needed depth that they're going to need to go on a long playoff run? Now, one could say, hey, well, they made it to an ECF last year and, and they added better depth than what they've had. And you're absolutely right. But that's still a question that I have there. Was the thing that the Knicks are going to have to prove over the course of this season is that was there a run there to the Eastern Conference Finals fluky because of what happened with Cleveland, or is it something that is more sustainable, right? And now that they've forged through that, are they going to play better for the entirety of the year? One of the things that hurt the Knicks for the entirety of last year was their record against above 500 teams. Now, they went to the playoffs to play really well there. They go to the ECF, so maybe that run through the playoffs gives them a little bit of extra oomph, right, going into the season, and that they play better against those above 500 teams. And I would love to see that. Jalen Brunson is a player that I have as one of my low-key candidates to win MVP. If you're asking for a dark horse candidate to win MVP, Jalen Brunson will be one of the guys on the list for me there. I think we've seen him play at an MVP level, not sustained for like a whole season, but we've seen him go into that area. And then every once in a while, there is that dark horse that wins it. And, and sometimes they're at the point guard position, a la Derrick Rose, right? So, maybe Jalen Brunson can do that and be that player this year for the New York Knicks and help transcend there. But their depth is a big question for them that I think they're going to have to answer and try to figure out and forge over the course of this season. And then lastly, the team that I do think is still the number one team in the Eastern Conference, at least during the regular season, and they're going to win a lot of regular season games. But of course, the question is going to be, are they healthy and things like that? And that is the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? And the Cavs had just things that just blew up on them last year. Like eventually the injuries just caught up with them. They weren't able to do it. And that's going to be a problem for them. And I think that's something that they're going to have to look at, right, is health. Health is the biggest question for them there, because I don't think you can truly evaluate the Cleveland Cavaliers until they put together a relatively healthy season. And so I don't know, they locked in the majority of their core new deals, and that's really good when it comes down to it. But Darius Garland and Max Strus aren't going to be healthy at the start of the season. One with a toe injury, one with a foot injury. Donovan Mitchell deals with things from time to time there as well, right? And so you're looking now at you lost Ty Jerome. He moved on in free agency. You lost him. That you lost some wing depth in Isaac Okoro, and you're betting on the often injured Lonzo Ball. So injuries are a huge thing there, I think, for this Cleveland Cavaliers team and how they're going to be able to achieve and overcome that. As a Bulls fan, I've been there. Lonzo played 70-something games in 5 years. Like, so you the question is 4 years is going to be, is he healthy at the right time? And how much can the Cleveland Cavaliers force to sacrifice to make sure he's healthy in the playoffs, which is going to matter the most? And that's the thing that's going to be there. But injury is one of the biggest questions there for me, and the biggest hurdle for them to get over. Can the Cleveland Cavaliers be healthy when it matters the most and at the right time? And if they can, then they're going to have some big things happen for them. But that's the question when it comes down to that for me. Now, let's switch over to the West, right? The three teams that I have in the West are the OKC Thunder, the Houston Rockets, and the Denver Nuggets. We're going to start off with the Denver Nuggets here. What are some of the questions about the Denver Nuggets? What's the biggest hurdle that they're going to have to get over? And I would say this, it's still when Jokic is off the court minutes. That's still the biggest thing there, right? Like when he is off the court, who's gonna stand up? Because you ideally want to have Jokic be able to rest some during the season. I mean, for whatever rest is, right, during the season. But, also injuries are a thing for them too. If Jamal Murray goes down for them, who steps into that role, right? You had Russell Westbrook step up, and as a starter, he put up some really good numbers when it comes down to it. You've added Bruce Brown back to this team. You've added some pretty solid depth, I think, overall in this team. I think Tim Hardaway is going to help. But who and where's the offense going to come from? And is it going to be consistent when Jokic is off the court? I think that's the biggest thing that you have there, and that's a huge question for this Denver Nuggets team going into next season. Are you healthy at the right time? And then on top of that, when Jokic does have to sit and rest, are you able to still do enough, right? I'm not expecting you to still be the same team offensively you are when he's on the court or anything like that, but can you still do enough to where you're gonna stay above that? And that's the question that I have there for the Denver Nuggets team. And we'll see. For the Houston Rockets, I would have had a different question here if we did this episode before Fred VanVleet went down, right? And so now, like, some could question, like, hey, should the Houston Rockets even still be in your top three teams in the Western Conference, or could you have replaced this with the team that I wanted to talk about in the Minnesota Timberwolves? And here's the thing. I think, like, Fred VanVleet was not really good during the season. When you look at how the numbers flip for him during the season and in the playoffs, right? Not to say he still didn't play a key role in leadership, still hit some big shots for them. All those type of things are there. But so I still think they could be a really good regular season team. But I do think you're going to need to figure out over the course of this season who's going to be your point guard, who's going to have the on-ball creation duties, who's going to have those things for you while VanVleet is out. And that's a question that we don't know yet. Could it be Amin? Could it be Reed Shepherd? Does he finally step up? Could it be by committee? Those type of things are going to be here, and that's a question. Now, they have the assets to make a trade if they decide to do so. We've heard they're not going to extend Tari Eason. That's a chip that they could use to cash in if they want to make a midseason trade to try to find a short-term solution to their issue, right? But, Jake Fisher did say this recently. The word out of Houston is that the Rockets will use the next few months to evaluate both recent number 3 pick Reed Shepherd and standout swingman Amin Thompson in greater ball handling capacities before the trade season truly begins December 15th. So it seems like they're going to use the first couple of months of the season to see how they're handling, how the ball handling duties goes, and then they're going to make decide what they're going to do going forward. Reed Shepherd's a guy that's just small. He's not going to get. He's never was the greatest passer. I worry about him getting a shot off consistently in the NBA level, but we shall see. But that's my biggest question for the Houston Rockets. What's going to happen there? And then for the OKC Thunder, for a team that is as young as what they are, they were the youngest team in the NBA last year. They won the title. They have a potential dynasty that they're trying to build in the works here, but it's still consistency on the three-point shooting. Even when we saw them at times last season, even against Indiana, sometimes against Denver, it still came down to, guess what? Their three-point shooting. And so that's still the biggest question here for this Oklahoma City Thunder team. Is your shooting going to be enough and right at the right times? And when it's needed the most, are you going to be able to have that three-point shooting that is bringing in enough of what you need? And, we've seen teams go cold shooting-wise. And so, we'll see. And I get it for a team that won 68 games last season to have a question on them and, they're still young and they still have tons of draft picks and all those type of things. But I do think, they ranked 6th in both three-point makes and three-point shooting percentage. They did struggle on the law ball in the postseason as well, 11.8 and 33.8% shooting on three in the postseason. So it is still a question if you're talking about hurdles and how they're going to get into that winning their second title. That's still the biggest hurdle. But you guys, let me know down below on that. Who would be your top 3 teams in each conference? Again, your list, not my list. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the other 2 topics. We got some news items to get into. Seth Curry signed a 1-year deal with the Golden State Warriors. That was after Jonathan Kuminga signed a 2-year, $48.5 million deal with the Warriors. And now the Warriors team is complete. They have completed every roster spot that they have is now filled. They have a full roster. It is what it is. Seth Curry now joins his brother Steph Curry on his team, and we shall see, right? We're going to see what's going to happen here overall with this team, with this franchise, and what they can do. But the Warriors now do have a complete roster. Now the question is Steve Kerr going to play Jonathan Kuminga, and are these sides going to, eventually come to a trade, which may happen as early as mid-January? So that's the questions that you have there, and we'll see. But for what it's worth, the Warriors do complete their roster out. And then lastly, I do want to talk about this. Deandre Ayton talked about teaming with Luka Doncic, right? And he said this: I don't really know, something we spoke about or thought about. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? And it finally came to life. Coming up as draft prospects and finally here 8 years in, it's actually pretty cool to be this young at our age and finally link up and work together. And I think DeAndre Ayton realizes the importance of him getting it right here with the Los Angeles Lakers. They didn't sign him to an extremely long deal. He's going to have an ability to prove, but they need what he's going to be. He is a double-double, a walking double-double. Now, the question is that with Luka's gravity and things like that, can you take it to the next step up? And that's the question that you're going to ask here. He is going to have a real big opportunity to remind himself and people what he can really be. DeAndre Ayton is a talented player. He's a very talented player, but he's inconsistent, and there's been questions about his drive. So now, being here on this Lakers team, being in LA, where they need you, and they need exactly what you bring there. They need some of other things that you don't bring, but we'll see. And so now we'll see what the future holds for DeAndre Ayton with the Los Angeles Lakers. Of course, they're hoping that he's going to be that big and lob threat and front court presence that they need. He just has to go out and prove it. And this is in a lot of ways DeAndre Ayton's maybe last chance to really reclaim his NBA career. Even saying that as young as he is crazy. I get it, right? And that's why I said maybe. I'm not adamantly saying it is, but it could be. If he fizzles out here, and you look at the Into the Phoenix and what he played in Portland and the doubt around him, internalize that, use that to motivate you and go out here and attack it. And we'll see if DeAndre Ayton can do that and do it consistently for the Los Angeles Lakers. But that's my time for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything basketball related, but that is mainly thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, I'll see you guys when I feel like posting another video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.